our panelists. Since Aaron's already explained sort of a little bit of who I am, so that's me, I'm Rachel. This here is Julianna Vorhaus. We call her Jules. She works at TapInfluence. She's the Director of Influencer Development and is a 5-year veteran of Tap. I will say in this category that is extraordinary because influencer social media marketing is very new. So she's kind of OG of influencer marketing. She got her start connecting influencers and marketers to work together on sponsored content and working with clients like Udi's, Gluten Free, Haverty's, Meredith, and White Wave. She's a firm believer in influencer marketing, and she now dedicates her days to building the TapInfluence marketplace and engaging with all of our amazing influencers in our incredible community. That is Jules.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, that's right. And next we have Lane, the man on the panel tonight. Yep, what up, Lane? Lane is a content marketing director at CW Hemp. They are the creators of Hemp Extract that has improved quality of life for millions of people worldwide. His experiences both as an influencer and as a marketer for the hemp industry have helped guide him toward great success within the Tap platform. And then next, hi down there. This is Censie. Censie's an influencer, and she's also part of our Tap 100 member. And the Tap 100 is our elite influencer program. And by day, she's a nonprofit worker at the Tennyson Center for Children in Denver. It's incredible. Yeah. And has a successful blog called Building Our Story about parenting and being a working mom. And you might have noticed some very, very fancy, not Whole Foods treats, because they're very fancy back there. And those were actually featured on her blog, and she brought the recipe, made them, and brought them tonight. Thank you, Censie. Yep. And down on the end there, we have Sandra Mccollum. She's an influencer and also a Tap 100 elite member. She's a professional caterer, a mother of 5. I have 2. I find that crazy incredible. Rock on, Sandra. And a successful blog called A Dash of Sanity, sharing food, travel, and lifestyle content. So with that, let's dig in a little bit. Okay, Censie, since it's close to you, I'd love to know why you think influencer marketing is important today.
I'm sure most of you know that most of everything that we talk about and do is on social media now. In a few years, I wonder what commercials on TV will even look like. I think it's super important that we are able to use our influence in the social media world, because that's where people are first going. I mean, it's not a surprise when everyone has their phones in their hands. That's where they are going to look for ideas, products, politics, anything. And that's why I think it's really important. And in a few years, I think that's going to be the way that marketers are going to be getting their product out to all of us.
Yeah, for sure. Lane, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Coming from the cannabis industry, it's a great opportunity for us to be able to push the limit a little bit. You know, we are largely tied by FDA compliance and the fact that our product is not approved by the FDA. So getting an influencer to discover things on their own and sort of push the envelope as far as what they've done with the product or what they can talk about has been done with the product for other people. You know, we originated as a hemp extract that helped Charlotte Figge, who had 300 to 500 seizures a week. And after taking our product for a few days, seizures were gone. And now 6 years later, they're still 99% gone. I can't say that. I can't say that our product did that. But an influencer can tell that story. And it gives us, you know, so much more latitude in the way we can reach people's hearts and the way we can potentially, you know, influence people to discover other things. So it's really that. It's another arrow in our quiver that, you know, our hands are tied in the office, but y'all can do it a lot more. So.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, Sandra.
Well, what I would add to that, which has already kind of been said, is that you get to see the product or the brands that influencers use real life, in real time, especially with like Facebook Live and all the all the videos that are going live now on Instagram even, Twitter's live, like everything you can see actually happen at that moment. And so I see a lot of my interaction from my readers and my followers like seeing the product being used right then and there, how they can use it right away instead of just saying, oh, this is potentially I could use it. They get to see it.
We talk a lot in the office sometimes, just really looking at marketers can reach people through robotic means of digital marketing, but it does seem that there is almost a human craving to just talk to somebody one-on-one, right? And to connect with them, like just as you're suggesting, and to see something used in real life and get those very real ideas about a product. Not just because what you can or can't say, but just like what does it really mean to you, and get that really interesting human connection that honestly, the brands and traditional forms of marketing can't do. Jules, do you want to talk about that at all?
We were talking about this a little bit before we sat down up here, and we were talking about the millions of different ways that influencers are going to figure out how to use a brand's product versus the way a brand is going to tell you how to use their product, right? So influencer marketing gives you a million is maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but it gives you this huge amount of space within brands. I mean, the number of products that aren't used the way a brand necessarily intended, or things like that, and all of these different authentic stories. And I think another step sort of beyond that, as I'm looking at this like beautiful mural that B put together for us today, but the step beyond that is that we've really created an economy around influencers. There is a group of people that are working from their homes, able to do this other thing within their lives and making money off of it, and it benefits the brands, and honestly, I think it benefits the consumers too, because you're providing value and education and entertainment and all those different sorts of things. So those are my thoughts.
Lane, since now the mic is close to you, well, it makes it easy. At what point did you really consider yourself an influencer?
At what point did I consider?
We're going to use a capital I on that. Yeah. Ooh.
I started writing blogs, like cannabis blogs, and I was given a great opportunity out of the blue, and it's the moment I knew I was an influencer was when I started getting all these friend requests or follows and things that I didn't actually want, and I had to switch my Facebook to like follow only, and that's when I was like, oh, this is kind of moving pretty quickly, and by no means do I have a huge following or anything like that, but the fact that you're deflecting interaction with people, that that's when you realize you're reaching people, and then they send you private messages and stuff like that. A lot of them are creepy. A lot of them are, hey, I want to move to Colorado and get in the cannabis industry. How do I do that? And if you're over the age of 18, I might respond. But other than that, that was really for me. And now it's like, it's fun to see how much reach you can get, and that's it. So
We're just suggesting
I got it higher.
Really good. Kenzie and Sandra, I'd love to know the same from you guys too.
When I considered myself an influencer?
Yeah, with the capital I.
With a capital I. I would say engagement. When I started actually seeing the product or the posts and the conversations I was having with myself on my blog, when people were actually engaging with that and seeing maybe some return rates on those people, knowing that I actually had someone who was interested in the recipes or the crafts or the tutorials that I was doing, and having that return rate and seeing that the engagement was there and building off of it too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember the exact moment. I remember I became an influencer with an I, and it was one of my recipes. I had only been blogging a couple months, and a reader got on and was like, "What kind of chicken broth do you use?" And I was like, "Why? There's so many brands of chicken broth. Just go pick up whatever's on sale." And I was just kind of like noticed that over time, people were actually going for the brands that I would actually put down, because they wanted exactly what they had seen on my blog post. So they wanted it to look like the picture and taste like the picture and how we had described it. So that's kind of when I realized that I was influencing people actually buying something. And then now I would say I feel it even more with like Facebook Live videos, because they're asking instant questions. So like they'll be like, "Oh, what kind of pot are you using right now?" And I'm like, "Really? Like, doesn't everybody have a pot they love?" And so that's where you get the instant interaction. I'm like, "Oh wow, they really are following and wanting to know." Like there are some people that doesn't come natural to.
And then Kenzie, you were talking about engagement. How do you keep your followers engaged?
I think responding to the engagement, when someone is asking a question like that, to respond to them, and obviously you would probably do that in a live broadcast, but also just even when it's not a live broadcast, that you're actually responding to those comments that you're getting or questions that you're getting. And then also learning from the post or the live broadcast, if you see one doing well, to do that again and see if that really is where your audience wants to see you going more.
That's great. Lane, what type of influencer marketing campaigns have you worked on?
So I've worked on just general brand awareness. CW Hemp just became CW Hemp. We were formerly CW Botanicals, and in the past couple months we've changed our brand name, and so a lot of that's now making people aware. And this is the same product. We have a different look, but the foundation of our company was a largely medical community, so they depend on this thing, and it works. So they don't want to think about, is it different, and it freaks them out. So that was the beginning, was the brand awareness, and then we've now transitioned into a case study that TAP and CW Hemp are doing together that's designed to encourage the influencers and their audiences to experiment with our product. And we want to, Charlotte's Web is really a panacea of sorts, and it's kind of amazing. I find myself laughing, like, is it good for this? Is it good for that? Yes, 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 always. And that sounds ridiculous, but we need to get people to experiment with it to find out things that we don't even know. Because if I'm answering yes, it works for this or helps with that all the time, then it's endless, the possibilities. So this case study is the newest thing that we're doing, and we're really looking to encourage people to experiment with beauty, cosmetic aspects of our product. You're taking this oil that is traditionally taken orally and now putting it on your face, and nothing bad's happening, good things are happening. And we found that out from influencer marketing. So, it's great, and it gives me a lot of insight into where we can drive the company into the future.
So that was one of the influencers' idea. They gave you guys that idea to use it topically?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
She was doing that, right?
she was doing that, yeah. And I have
So many different ways.
we just had a new video created showing that. This lady Kelly Gold has a blog called Goldilocks, and she's from Maryland, and she's involved with the hemp industry back east. But she has a cosmetic blog and a beauty blog, and just so happens that her husband is an Olympic weightlifter. So this is kind of, we have a product that's great for aches and pains and joint pain, right? It's topical. Oh, well, we want you to use this cosmetically, but your husband's an Olympic weightlifter. He has aches and pains. Is he using it? Yes, it's working. So through TapInfluence, now I've discovered sort of two diamonds in the rough, or, killing two birds with one stone. I've got an athlete, and I have a trusted beauty blogger. So.
Yeah, that's great. Kinsey or Sandra, let me know which one. Have you, for the last paid influencer program you did, was it one campaign or was it a repeated long-term relationship with the brand? Because I know when we ran the Altimeter study that we recently did, we saw in there that the marketers in the study cited ongoing ambassadorships as the most effective way to leverage influencers. Do you agree?
If it's a product that you enjoy and would use more than that one time you're trying it, absolutely. I think ambassadorships are great because it gives, I think it, at least for me, it shows the influencer that the marketer trusts me and wants to see what I can do with their product, knows that I'm going to do good work, get their product out there. Mm-hmm. It also, I think you would agree with me that, this is a job, and we all like going to work and know that we're going to work to get paid for what we do. Just knowing that maybe we have 3 or 4 specific campaigns with that one company or agency, it gives you a sense of accomplishment, I think, too.
Well, I'll add a little bit to that. The reason I think it's so powerful is because the consistency in the message over a period of time to your reader. So for me, I love it because I've worked on one that I just absolutely loved. It was a product, and I kind of used it every day of my life anyway. But the brand and I were able to go back and forth to each other and hone in on a message, hone in on an audience. And so it was really specific. Had I only done one post for them, and I actually ended up, it was for the first round. So had I only done one for that 1 month, that would have been it. Like there wouldn't have been any like linking back. But when I did it the second, the third, and the fourth, at the end of the post, I would link back to those old recipes, and we were able to hone in on a message. What worked that first round? Where did it go wild? Where did it do really well? Pinterest. Okay, let's focus that and make a collage. You know, so there's so much collaboration that your voice becomes so much stronger, and the influence lasts a lot longer. So I love that. And as you know, if you're really proud of something and I mean, in the blogging world, if you get a really great ambassadorship, it is huge. And you let everybody know. And so that right there, you're not even getting technically paid at that point to being promoted. Like you haven't even done your first post. But you're telling everybody in the blogging world, hey, I've got this ambassadorship, and everyone's like, oh, I want to work with them. And all those bloggers guaranteed are contacting that brand like, oh, I hear this is amazing, I want to get on board. And they have so much more contacts at that point. So I think they're really, really powerful.
For sure. You know, we also learn and certainly talk a lot to influencers and to agencies and marketers and brands about that collaboration and how important that is. Have you ever worked with a brand that was less collaborative and sort of said, I need you to say this?
Yes.
The brand agency people in here know that.
Yes. And you can sense my hesitation. Yeah, and that's difficult. And I think this is why it's so important for brands to figure out who they want to work with and to research their influencer. Because if they were just to pick up any blogger, there's going to be bloggers out there who are going to say exactly what you want, when you want it, how you want it. But to me, that's not the voice of my blog. So I wouldn't be the right person to talk to. That, unless I totally, completely agree 100% with what they've said, I'm not keen on that because it's not my voice. And I want my readers to know that I'm going to be honest and real. Yeah. And I want them to trust me. And so doing that, just you lose your message there from my standpoint.
I agree. I think a big part of being a good social influencer is having that authentic voice. And if there are, 50 bloggers all on the same campaign having that same paragraph in their blog, I mean, that's not authentic. If there is a brand editing your work, that's not authentic. I think that's huge. And I think if marketers look for the correct influencer, they won't have to have that, paragraph in each blog. They're going to have what they want to get out to our readers. If you have a good influencer, that information is going to get out there.
Lane, do you have anything to add to that?
My experience so far, no, I think that my experience as an influencer and a marketer, I feel sympathetic to the influencers when I'm trying to run a campaign. Provide idea starters rather than this is what you need to say. However, maybe it's because I'm sympathetic and I try to design the programs that way, but I haven't yet had someone come back and say they want to have a discussion really, what about this, what about that? It's either it doesn't fit with my brand or my blog, bye, or it's cool, and then they do it. And, that's where I can get better. I think the biggest challenge that I'm having with this as a marketer is it's on me. The influencers do their job. I need to be more specific or more, give me some suggestions. I want you to talk to me. I want you to tell me what I'm trying to do is ridiculous or it's absolutely right or, it's so close, but I did this one thing that worked better and we could just put the cherry on top. And so, it's really great to get feedback and all that stuff. And now this Kelly Gold that I mentioned already, I'm getting that now. And it's because I pushed for it. I wanted her to feel like an ambassador. And guess what? I'm getting suggestions. I'm getting experiences. I'm starting to think differently because of the influencer. And that, now we're all kind of firing on all cylinders, which is awesome.
But you had to open the door really to invite that.
Yeah, she seemed receptive, and I sensed that, and it was like the perfect day, and I was like, we're gonna do this. Okay, so we did it, and it's great. But the feedback, that interaction, it goes both ways. You can have someone that's just getting their little paycheck, posting to their followers, or someone who really wants to understand the brand and the product. So.
Can I interject
Yeah,
my 2 cents? as
yeah,
well?
and I have a follow-up for you, Jules, so you're good.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Okay. Love follow-ups. So I guess for me, I feel like when a brand tries to get too specific or this is the message, this is the paragraph, you lose that authenticity, right? You lose those million different ways that you can talk about the brand or think about the brand. And I love that you, Lane, especially are so open to that collaboration, because that's when you're going to be the most successful, and that's when you're going to get that level of authenticity. And that's what we're all looking for. And I remember when I was running programs for our clients, and it was my biggest pet peeve of like, don't make them put every single trademark symbol in. Oh my gosh, don't make every single blog have that one paragraph. You read it, right? Like if you're somebody who's super into food, you're probably following like 5 or 6 different food blogs. You see that same paragraph, you don't go any further, right? You know, you've picked up on it. The consumers are a lot smarter, I think, than some of our brands give them credit for. And so I think that ability to sort of, as a brand or a marketer, as an agency especially, is where it gets really hard, but to sort of let go and give some of that back to these people that you've researched. You're paying to go out and share your message. You got to let go just a teeny tiny bit. You got to trust that they're going to do the right thing for you.
That's the whole point, right? Like, we're not trying to disguise these ads. Right? We're not. We're trying to be genuine here. So just be genuine. You know, you don't have to like tiptoe around the trademarks or say this is sponsored. You know, say it. They know it. They get it. But don't be so, you know, aggressive about it, right? And I think a lot of brands want to be, or they absolutely don't want to be. It's polar, you know. So,
We'll get
like
into that.
adding to it too is like we, as my company, has so many restrictions on what we can say and so on because of, you know, like I mentioned, the FDA. So I'm always cringing when I have this do's and don'ts section in my briefs. So it's like, you know, as a writer, tell me what I can and can't do. Like, give me a topic and make a few suggestions in this. But then it's like, well, we could all just get in trouble and this whole thing could blow up if we don't do and don't, you know. So finding that balance and being strategic with your authenticity is huge.
Yeah.
You know?
So recently, just staying on that topic, so recently Warner Brothers got into very public trouble by not following the FTC guidelines. We certainly at TapInfluence, we require the FTC guidelines. They're baked into the platform, makes it really easy for brands to be protected and for the influencers to be protected. But in the Altimeter study we ran, we saw that roughly half of the respondents said, you know what, actually, sometimes or never, 50% of the time, sometimes or never asked to include the disclosures. And so, yeah, do you guys have anything else to add about the disclosures? Because along the vein of authenticity and transparency, yeah.
I think, and kind of what you just said, people know it's an ad. But again, we also are a business, and just like you have to be careful with what's being said because it could blow up your entire company, we can also get in trouble for that too. Again, just because we're saying this is an ad at the beginning of our post, if we are doing our job the right way, we can still be good social influencers by speaking authentically to that product or for that brand.
Yeah.
That surprises me that people wouldn't want that there.
Well, yeah, it surprises me. Well, I've never had that happen through Tap, which it's already coded in there. I love that. I don't even have to think about it. But when you do get somebody that ask you that, it's kind of like, why do you not want that to be known? And so for me, it's that's just like a thing. And I would mainly see that, I've seen that on Instagram, mainly, not mainly sponsored posts, but mainly like social media shout outs, not asking. And that I would never do obviously for legality reasons, but also for my own integrity. Like, I want people to know. I think the hardest thing for us with ad guidelines as bloggers is this, all the algorithms changing on social media. So when you do a sponsored post, you have to push hashtag ad, or, it changes. It used to be capital AD or spawn, or, there used to be different ones, but right now it's hashtag ad. The algorithms change, and so sometimes your post, it's like hard to get it engaged. It just takes a lot more work, and so it's nice. The blogging community is really tight knit. I have some friends here now, and we work together to see what we can do as influencers to still get it out there. working together, finding out new ways new verbiage. And that's what I love about the blogging community is it's close like that. And so around the guidelines, that's the hardest thing for me. Brands that ask me not to disclose that I would never work with. But, for me, it still is like, oh, I have to put hashtag ad. It's hard. But so I would say that's the biggest struggle, but I like how we work together to try to move past that.
That's great. Jules, I wanted to ask you, sort of moving to a slightly different direction. We recently did the number where we've paid out now $1 million worth of influencer payments, which is a material amount of money. So you've seen a lot of programs and worked with a lot of influencers. What's successful? Like, how do you measure success in those programs?
As a marketer? As an influencer? As us?
As a marketer. As a marketer.
I think that changes for every marketer and for every program, right? Are you looking for brand awareness? You want to get a lot of eyeballs. Are you looking for brand engagement and potentially trying to gauge what that brand consideration is and whether or not there's purchase intent? You want to see more engagement. You want to see clicks on a URL. And actually, in my customer success days, that was always the struggle was, what are you going for? What do you ultimately want to achieve with your posts? Share that with your bloggers. Share that with the influencers that you're working with. Share that with us and let us help you create that strategy that develops, towards that success goal, because it's different for everybody. Joseph and I were having this conversation the other day, right? Like, success looks different for everyone in every level, whether it's an influencer marketing program, a marketing program that we're running here, whatever it is. And so making sure that you're being really clear. And I've always said to be really clear with your influencers, because they're going to have ideas that you didn't think of. So I also personally think, engagement is huge. We're big on engagement, right? Like, views don't matter as much anymore. We don't really care about reach. It's about that engagement. Are they clicking? Are they sharing? Are they pinning, et cetera? Like, that's the stuff that matters. That's that active action. So,
do you guys have anything
what do
to
you think,
add around performance and metrics?
Performance and metrics.
Yeah.
the most fun parts.
For us, we're getting a lot of engagement and a lot of views from our posts, and that's great. And a lot of what we're doing is about education. That's the thing with the cannabis industry, with the hemp. There's all this skepticism, and we have to first overcome that with a lot of people, then introduce them to the product, then get them to buy it, then get them to buy it again. And so it's the buying process. The cycle there is really what we're trying to work on to gauge performance. We're reaching a lot of people, and it's awesome, and that's great, but converting that to sales then is now the biggest challenge for us. And I think you're not behind the 8 ball, so to speak, but we're trying to creep to the right of it a little bit and sort of get people to understand something that they haven't ever considered before in a lot of cases. So, do you guys know that industrial hemp is federally legal? That this product that I'm talking about can be shipped to all 50 states and 11 or more countries around the world? I don't know. I think y'all are intelligent people, but I suspect that you didn't know that right here in Colorado, we're shipping this stuff all over the country. And people are like, what? Can I fly with it? And so you got to get past that before you can even start looking at your metrics. Am I going to gauge how many people I've convinced that they're not going to go to jail by ordering this? Well, no. I mean, that's one way, but I'd prefer to gauge it with sales. So that's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you guys from a blogger's perspective? Like, how do you know that you've been successful for a brand?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I totally.
No, it was good. I liked it. I liked it. It was like a co-pilot.
Yeah, so how I gauge success is I look at it at different points in the campaign. So, of course, the first day I'm pushing it like crazy because I want to see the initial reaction. I want to see what comments I get, what initially people are interested in. And then I'll look at it 7 days later, see what the consistent engagement is, see if there's questions or interaction. And then after 30 days, I'm looking to see where it's doing very well. Is it on Twitter? Is it Instagram? Is it Pinterest? Is it Facebook? Is it my subscribers to my newsletter? where am I getting the most engagement and where do I need to continually push it. And then after the 30 days, what I start to do is like put it in, well, I'm putting it in share groups before then. But what I'll do is I'll work with other bloggers to push my content in other places. And I follow them. So if they pin, the recipe that I did for that brand, and I'll go back and check that board 10 days later, 20 days later, and see how it's doing. If it's a well-performing pin, of course I'm going to pin the heck out of it to other places. So I just don't gauge at it like the instant, because like I mentioned earlier, the algorithms of everything is changing. And so you kind of have to adjust your game as well. So whereas beginning I used to look just how is it doing initially, but now over time I'm watching it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And then I'm always, if it's doing really well, send it to the brand. Hey, give a shout out over Twitter. This is doing really well, check it out. So it's not just a one-time thing, and that's what I think people don't understand with working with an influencer. And we talked about this earlier, I need 10 social shares. Well, okay, page views make me money. So I'm obviously gonna want people to come. And so I'm gonna be naturally, if I'm doing my job and working really hard, which I am, I'm gonna naturally push people to there anyway and share more than 10 times. But okay, I'll record 10 for you. But if you have an influencer who really is proud of what they're doing, they'll do that naturally.
Just to add to that too, I think we talked about this before too, just about contacting the brand. So I do the same thing. You record how it's doing, but then when the brand itself reaches out to you and thanks you for the work that you've done, or maybe shares it on their own, that's huge. That makes the influencer feel like, okay, I did my job. And I think that just kind of validates us, shows the trust.
How often does that happen?
Wait. So you're saying that brands don't engage with your content all the time? You're kidding me. That's like a rule that I've created, is that anytime we pay somebody to do this, you go and you like it, you share it, you do as much as you can.
And I'm not talking about Tap. Like if you work with Tap sharing, saying it. Okay.
From
you.
us.
Yes.
To you. Tag me in it, make it a notification.
You should.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Right. So.
Wow. I feel
Do you need to say that again?
Yeah. Engage with your influencers. Yeah, right.
We're gonna hire Lane to do a whole influencer marketing best practices for marketers.
Yeah.
Apparently.
We'll add that to the new tip sheet we're working on.
Oh, I like
Yeah,
that.
a little cheat sheet. Say thank you and also share it back out, brands. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and because what she's saying, it is not that often. I mean, I would say, I want to give her a percentage, but I thought it would be more often than it is, I guess I should say. So when they do, I'm like, oh, it is like, oh, that was awesome. I want to work with them again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. It's good to know. What's the biggest challenge what do you think in influencer marketing, being the influencer with the capital I? So besides the thank you and the lack of shout outs about half the time.
Okay. So the biggest challenge for me, I would say that there's two. And one is and this kind of shocked me when I started working with brands, because obviously I develop recipes, was the product not being available. And that really surprised me, and it happens more times than not. That I was like, I would go to purchase it, and I'd be like, oh, okay, it's not here. And I would have to ask them, oh, that hasn't come in yet. Oh, it's going to be a couple weeks. And then I have the brand tell me, no, it's in that store. Okay, I'll go back, And so that's been a struggle. So product rollouts, having that firm timeline. And then I would say the second thing is, we have an editorial calendar as bloggers, most of us, where we schedule out and we have things set. I do not want to put 2 sponsored posts next to each other. That's not how I want to engage. I want to be able to push each post a lot. And so if I have 2 sponsored ones, it's more difficult to get it out there. So I like to space mine out and have a schedule. And so when I have a deadline and they say, okay, you need to turn in your draft here, and you turn it in, they say, okay, you're going to publish on this date, and you're waiting for the approval, and you don't get it. And then it's a week, 10 days, and you don't hear anything, and you're sending emails, and you're like, hey, I would really like to get this out. So that is my biggest challenge, and I would say, sometimes that is not preventable. There's just going to be hiccups. We totally understand that. But when it's a consistent thing with a brand or a marketing company, that's when I'm kind of like, okay, like maybe this isn't, a good time. But that's my biggest challenge. Do you see that? Or
Yes, I do see that because it always usually it's like, okay, now you can post that, but you already had another one on your calendar. And so I think if that is going to happen, maybe having a little flexibility as to when you could do it. So now your draft is ready, just wait. I would say my biggest thing is my biggest struggle right now is just keeping up with all of the new social media options. We're going from like when we first started this, it was Facebook and Twitter. And then it's like every week there's something else that we should try as social influencers, right? So just keeping up with that and then building, again, if there's a new platform, now you have to build that platform so that you get the engagement that you need.
Lane, what about you? Challenges?
As an influencer?
Yes.
I don't know. I'll speak from the marketing perspective. Okay. So, I think what you're saying is both of you about being flexible and responsive. Like, I still can't get over the fact that people pay you to provide content about their brand and they don't like it themselves. People pay you to write content about their brands and then they don't respond to your drafts. So what's the point? You gotta follow up. If you're in it or you're not, you're blogging or you're not, you're trying to get your stuff out there, you're trying to influence people or you're not. And that, it's just follow up, right? I don't, I'm some sort of unicorn that I saw back there in the days. So you just gotta be engaged. Like that's what you want, engagement. So be engaged. Done. You can have that one too.
That was a good mic drop.
I was gonna say,
It's done. Yeah, it's good. Jules, what do you think?
boy.
From your perspective.
Biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge. I think we are at a point in the industry where we're going to come down a little bit. Like we're really high right now, right? We're on a roller coaster and we're like way up here. We're going to need to come back down here just a little bit in terms of like working with celebrities, everybody thinking they're an influencer. I was really hoping you were going to ask me the influencer question and I was going to be like, I'm not one. And that was going to be my mic drop. It's all right. But I think the biggest challenge right now is there's every brand thinks that they can jump onto this. But then I need you to have this one paragraph. I need you to have these trademark symbols. I need you to do this. And it's every person that's like, well, shoot, I take great pictures and I've got like 500 followers. I'm an influencer. And so it's going to be coming back to finding that equilibrium of what does it really mean to be an influencer? It means that people are reading and seeing your content and are taking an action. And what does it really mean to be a brand that can embrace influencer marketing? It means you can let go a little bit and trust the people that you've hired to create your message, share your message, and let them go forth and do that. And I think that's sort of the biggest challenge right now is that you've got influxes on both sides. And I think we're going to see some of that settle out over the next 2 years, in my personal opinion. So that, to me, is the biggest.
So influencers that qualify as real influencers. It has been said by some people that paying them for their influence, paying them for their time and the engagement hurts their authenticity.
I so disagree with that. I so disagree with that. I've disagreed with that from like day one. It was actually one of my like very favorite things when I first started at Tap way back when, before we were Tap, was that we so firmly believed in paying influencers, and we still do. I have a blog post on the subject if anybody would like to read it. But we are paying these people for their time and to do these amazing things and create recipes and style shoots, and they deserve to be paid for that. I mean, it's work. You would never expect to show up here every day and have, maybe occasionally get a couple bucks thrown at you. Like, it's your job, and you absolutely deserve to be paid for what it is that you are doing and the service that you are providing to the brands and agencies that you work for. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you guys think? Anything to add to that?
I just agree.
That's fine. That's good.
I like that. You can
That's
go with
good.
that.
Yeah, you're
That's
doing a
good.
job.
You know what? I am craving a question.
I think think we're always collaborating, maybe not all on the same platform. So, I mean, yeah, maybe in the next couple of years, it becomes more of a community of influencers. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I love being an influencer. I didn't even see myself, being here at this point. So many things can change, as we're seeing and mentioning of social media and everything. It's just constantly evolving. But I love it because it's my actual life. Like I said, I have 5 kids. I have a very busy life. They're all still really little, so I have a long road ahead of me. And so I love sharing things that I love and affect my life, give me like my blog name, A Dash of Sanity. So I love being an influencer. I can see that being my voice for a long time, because I'm going to speak about things that make my life easier, make my kids' life easier, and that I enjoy. So I see me staying in that, but I love the community of blogging as well. And those are probably my closest community I have. So I am just new to that. I am new to Snapchat. I was actually super afraid of Snapchat just because of everything I heard at my son's middle school. I was like, oh, I'm never getting on Snapchat. So, but I did get on when I went to, a blogger sleepover where a whole bunch of bloggers get together and collaborate. And they were talking about how powerful Snapchat can be for behind the scenes from a brand perspective. So when you're traveling with a brand, which is like something bloggers love to do. They love brand trips. I do. They're amazing. And you fall in love with the brand because of how the experience. And so you can show, it's like a behind the scenes view. That's kind of how I see Snapchat. I definitely am not a huge user. But for my friends who are and who love it, they use it for more of that kind of come see what I'm doing, come see what I'm prepping, kind of like leading up to a post. I see it being used a lot for that, and it's pretty successful. They're doing a really good job. So somebody who knows that Snapchat and has a great following and knows who to tag and send messages to, yeah.
I'll openly admit that I sort of don't understand Snapchat. Truthfully, I kind of just don't get it. But I was talking, this is really random. I was talking to an Uber driver on my way from O'Hare Airport to one of my girlfriend's houses. And he's a photographer, and he's also trying to become an influencer. And we were talking about Snapchat. Random, I'm telling you. And he was telling me how he does senior photography photos for all of these 18-year-old girls. They're all on Snapchat because they want their lives to be like reality TV. And Snapchat is the closest thing to being on reality TV if you're a normal person. And so I love what Sandra was saying about that behind the scenes, up to the moment, this is what's happening. And I think from that standpoint, I just think Snapchat, we have to have such a different view with Snapchat than we do with any of our other channels. I don't see it as after the fact, this is how we're going to promote it. It is this is coming, get excited, watch me do this, here I am, oh my goodness, reality TV type of a thing, as opposed to what you would expect from a Twitter or a tweet or a Facebook share or whatever. So.
So that is totally going to be per influencer. We each have our own schedule, what we're comfortable with. For me, it's 30%. So, what I like to post 5 to 6 times a week. And so, 20 to 25 times a month, just depending. This summer, that's about what it's been. So, 30% of that. So if I have, I'm working with a few different brands right now, and I'm trying to schedule them out. So I'll email them in advance. One that I'm working with right now, I said, oh, I've already got that date done. I can do the following week or 3 weeks from there. If I already have something done, I'm going to do my best. Now, sometimes it does happen where there's a product launch you cannot avoid. It has to be on that day. And so I have to really think, okay, how am I going to do this? But, I see bloggers who do it more than that, and they still have, a very authentic voice, and their followers are used to that. So if your followers and readers are used to getting content every day from you and having, 3 out of the 7 posts in a week be sponsored, they're going to be fine with that. Especially if they're loyal and you're consistent. I think consistency is key. So if all of a sudden I changed and I was a sponsored post every day, I would probably lose my engagement. So what do you have on?
Yeah, I would definitely say, especially for me, seasons of life definitely make a difference too. Summer is really hard to have the consistent posting for me, just in terms of my lifestyle. But so if there's a chance for a campaign, and maybe I haven't been able to do a personal post, one that's not sponsored, they might run up against each other, but probably not right next to each other because I don't have time to do that. So I think it just depends on how everyone's calendars are. But I agree with you. I think this is where a true influencer is going to be able to make that content, even though it has ad in it, a post that someone will want to read.
And I'll add to that too. If you get a brand that's really wanting to work with you and you don't have a spot open, in that week or something, what I love, and I see some of my friends doing this now, is offering to do like a Facebook Live video or doing something. Hey, I can't work with you this week or next week. Here's what's open. If you want me to do something before then, I have this on my blog. I'd be happy to do a Facebook Live video. And there's a lot of positive interaction going with that within brands, working with bloggers. So give other options if Editorial Calendar isn't available.
Well, I've done both. If it's something that I really am wanting to get out there, I boost my own stuff sometimes too. I have been on a few campaigns where it's kind of built in, where that this is going to be part of the social reach after your blog post is done. They might want to add some money to a Facebook post to get more people to see it. So I've done both ways.
I've done that as well. I'm boosting has worked on my page, and so I'll do that naturally on my own, especially if it's something that I'm just like, oh, you got to see this. But that's what I love about TapInfluence as well, as their TapFire program, boosting other blogs. Like, I had a friend, actually, I boosted hers, and I didn't even know. I just got it, and I accepted it, and then I went to look at the link, and I was like, oh my gosh, yay, Sean. So I get a boost for you. So I love that. Well, what also you'll see is brands coming to you and asking to have like an ad done, and they control it. So you give them, and I had a friend help me out with this, but giving them like some sort of access to control, what's the age group, if it's reaching females, all the demographics. And so you can give them temporary, like not access to your page, but allow them to run their own campaign. But typically how I do it is just, okay, pay me on top of what I'll invoice you already, and you just let me know how you want it to run. So I typically, do you want it to run for a week, 10 days? How much are you going to go? Is it per day? Is it for 30 days? That kind of. But yeah, boosting is kind of sponsoring posts, especially on Facebook, is like sometimes a necessity, like you said, because the organic reach is sometimes difficult.
So I don't think we've really seen influencer content specifically influencing what's happening in traditional media. In the early days, it was, here's this huge traditional media campaign that we're putting together. Oh, and hi, we're going to throw influencer on top of that. Oh, and by the way, we also want some banner ads and all of those sorts of things. We're starting to see it a little bit more. One of our main customers is Scripps, who owns, HGTV, Food Network, et cetera. They're doing an amazing job of taking what they're doing with influencers and letting that sort of trickle down to their other parts of media. But that's sort of the only specific example that I can think of right now, versus when I think back to my old days when I was running programs, which, like I said, it was a lot of, this is traditional media. Oh, and by the way, here's new media thrown on top of it. So.
Yeah, I've seen that actually quite frequently. I'll get, even through Tap, I see, I don't know if I can even say any brand names, but Albertsons will work with like Old El Paso and do a campaign and work together. And that seems to work really well. I love it as well. I love working with more than one brand to create something and give an overall experience. I've recently worked with a brand, and they contacted me and they said, oh, and we have, this cupcake this cupcake wine, and I was like, oh, okay, you know, thinking it was actually a cupcake, but it was a bottle of wine. But I was like, you know, because I didn't see the big picture. But yeah, I see collaboration, and I can see how it would work for them. You know, they're both chipping in, both working with that one influencer. But I love it because then I can have more of a reach as well. So when I'm shouting out on social media, I'm tagging, you know, one person in one tweet, and then I'm sending out another tweet a few hours later with the other brand. And so it's keeping me engaged, my audience engaged, and then I'm engaging multiple brands. And so, yeah, I like it.
I would argue that, especially like in certain services, it's probably already there. It's about finding that right fit for you, right? It's about finding that person that needs those types of services or has needed them in the past and is able to speak to them authentically. Yeah, I would actually argue that I think we're already there in a lot of cases. I think it's going to depend a little bit on your niche, but I would think that we're there. I mean, consumers are consumers, whether we're talking about a consumer packaged good or a service. It is just about finding that right kind of sweet spot. I think business to business influencers a little bit more challenging, especially I think within our space. But I think for services, we're sort of already there.
I would also just say probably just where your location of services are. If you have a good, group of, if you find that person who can be that, your influencer, you have to make sure that your services are then available for the readers.
Well, I want to say thank you personally to each of you so much for your time and your expertise and for sharing that with everyone. Thank you, everyone that showed up tonight and came in here to ask good questions and share space with us. And State of Influence Unplugged, yay!